Good morning, everyone. So for today's class, it will be the last class before our midterm. Today we are going to do texture pen for our models. I hope all of your model can be apply some texture for the midterm projects. That's part of the requirement. If you cannot finish the whole texture pen for the entire sculpture, at least choosing certain areas such as skull, the body, or maybe the shell to finish the texture pen. Alright, anyway, let's get started. Before we start, I have something important things I'd like to let you guys know. That's about the process of texture pen and also the retypologies inside 3D code. Basically, there is no specific order for that. You can choose any kind of, process that you want. However, all of them are irreversible, sorry for that. What's that mean? It means that once you finish your retypologies or once you finish your texture pen, you cannot go back to keep working on your sculptures. If you do so, then your UV map, your texture pen will disappear or it will crash. So please remember that all of them are irreversible. And here are some regular or some process that I use most oftenly. The first one is finish the sculptures. You can choose in surface or voxel. Up to you. Then still you have to turn the model into surface model, but without retypology. For this time, we don't need to do retypology. Then once you get the surface model, we can just directly do texture pen. Sorry for that misspelling. We can just directly do the texture pen on the surface model. So which means that we are going to pen your model in a super high poly phases. Once you finish your texture pen, then we can start to do the retypology and back the textures. But for this way, since right now we are working on the retypology and also the texture backing in the same time, so it's very easy to crash. But it still can work, okay? It still can work. It just takes time. And finally, export your file to Blender or probably to Maya, up to you. So that's the whole process about the first way. The second way will be like this. Finish the sculpture, it can be surface or voxel. Then finish the retypologies, get the low poly model. Finally, do the texture pen and export. The second one is more common to see, but it's not that intuitive at all because probably when you are working on the sculptures, usually you want to keep all the details, then go for the texture pen. So that you can see the whole high resolutions details for your sculptures. And once you do the retypology, basically it means that you are going to lose some kind of texture, some kind of details. So that will be a problem. But basically the idea of these two are pretty much the same because the first one, in the end, we still have to back all the detail on normal map. And for the second one, during the retypology process, still he will keep and also back the detail to the normal map. So they are pretty much the same, but in the second one, you will lose some detail. That's something for sure. So anyway, I will show you the second one first, then show you how to do the first one. For the first one, it's pretty easy, but very easy to get crash. Alright, anyway, let's get started. Let's start with 2, then let's go to the first one. Okay, so let's get started. The first things we're going to do is to use the second way. which means do the retypology first, then start to do the texture paint, finally export the model. You can use in Blender or another tool to do the rendering. That's the process. Let's go to the sculpting room right here. In order to save time, so for the class demonstration, I will only use the head, the skull head, to do the example. So let me hide the rest part. Just leave the skull head. First things before we start to do the retypologies, let's using right click on the layer, fill void, and clean up the inner space. Then we can start to do the retypology. Right click, choosing Autotopo, and there are 4 different kind of options that we can use. The first one is the regular Autotopo, the automatically retypologies. So for this one, you will only get the models. For the second one, basically we can use the texture pen technology and to get the Autotopo result and also the texture pen. And the third one, that is the things we are going to use. We can get the retypology model and also the UV map so that we can paint on that. Okay, so for the first one, I never used that before, so I will just simply use in the third one. Just right click and click this one. And the next one we can do is to set the poly phase of the model. For my model, I already have 3 million faces, so I will keep probably around 60,000 faces on my model, on my retypology models. And here is about the speed of the retypology. Well, you can set that based on your computer powers. And hard surface retypology, usually I don't check that, but if you check that, well, it will automatically calculate the hard edge for you, like this area. For that part, that will become very, very sharp. But I don't know why sometimes it will fail. Alright, anyway, let's just click OK. For the rest of the part, let's just keep the same setting. For here, it's about to draw some detail area for your model. For example, if you want to keep more detail, right here, you can using your brush to paint this part. Or if you want to have more detail on the backside, and you can draw this area so that 3D code will increase the number of the faces over there. But for this time, I think it's fine. So let's just keep moving forward. This part is important. It's about the setting of the typologies. You can use it manually way to draw the wireframe on your model, just like what we did inside probably Blender or Maya. But if you are not so sure about how to do that, you can just directly ignore that part. For this time, I will just ignore that part. So now it's start to do the retypologies. Okay, so now we get to the retypologies. You can see that it keeps most of the detail and it looks pretty good. Now is the time to set up the normal map because during the typology process, well, it will help us to back the detail to the normal map. So right now I think it is fine, so let's just click OK. And here is about the size of your map. I think 2K size will be fine, so I will set 2K size. And for the rest of part, you can just take a look about what is it about. Right now, I think it is fine. We don't need the inverted normal. We don't need the preserve positions, so you just click OK. Alright, so it has been done. So basically, right now it seems like pretty much the same, but actually it is the UV map. If you go to the UV and take a look, so you can see that right now 3D successfully back the detail to UV map, and also it has successfully unwrapped the UV for us. For sure, the UV map doesn't seem to very good, I would say. Usually we don't unwrap the UV in this direction, but since it is a highly detailed textures, so I guess probably we won't notice that part. Alright, anyway, let's go to the texture pane. So probably we can just directly create a new layer. Let's try to draw something on that. So yeah, probably I will just directly using the smart material. For now, it's just a demonstration, so you don't have to follow this way. I just want you to know how to do the backing and how to do the texture pane and finally export your model. Okay, so now we are allowed to draw the texture on our models. Yeah, probably we can move this one up. Well, somehow it has been covered by the skull. Oh, anyway, I will just directly using layer and fill. Okay, so now we have. So this is the result of the textures. And for sure, we still can apply some different material on that. So let's create a new layer. And filling. Oh, sorry. No, not filling. They're just using brush to draw something. I just want to make sure it can work. All right. Okay, so let's assume this is the final one. If we go to the render view, you can take a look. You can see that I think the level of the detail is totally different from the preview shader. Anyway, let's assume this is the final one. So let's export the file. We can choose an export object and textures. But for this one, remember, you can use in this function only by professional versions of 3D Code. So which means you have to buy it, or at least buy for 2 months or 3 months. We can choose in the target file target software that you want to use. So I will just directly choose in Blender Cycles. Okay, and you can just click export, and it will help you to export the OBJ retypology model and also your texture by the PBM format. Okay, so now we have. Let's take a look about the final result. All right, that is not. It seems like a little bit weird. Let's do that again. Probably we can merge them together. Yeah, let's use in the Blender app link. Probably this one will be better. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so here we have. Here is the material. Okay, the ambient occlusions. And we don't have the displacement, but we have the normal map. And here is the roughness, the metalness, and diffuse color. So that's the whole textures for our model based on the physical base rendering. All right, so that's about the second way. Let's do the typology first, and then do the texture pen, and finally export your file out to 3ds Max, Blender, or Maya. Now let's take a look about the first way for making the texture pen and retypologies. The first thing, again, I still will only use the head to do the typologies. So let's hide the rest part. All right. And for the preparation, it's pretty much the same. Let's just fill in the void space. All right. Then we can turn this one into surface mode. I would suggest you to turn this one into surface mode. It will be better. Then we don't have to do a typology, just directly go to painting. Right now, it doesn't have any kind of UV map. If you go to here, it's completely empty. So there's nothing inside, but you still can see the model here. Because right now we are going to use the vertex pen technology to do the retypos. Let's create a new layer, and probably we can just directly apply a texture as example. That's using this one, the copper one. It will do some coating to back in the light, to back the ambient occlusion, etc. So once you finish, you can start to pen. So here is the result. Or we can just simply choose in fill the entire layer. So now we have that. Okay. So once you finish, let's assume this is the finished one, okay? Or if you want, you still can apply some color or maybe some, yeah, anyway. We still can apply some color on that, but let's assume this is the finished one. So once you finish your texture painting, let's start to do the retypologies and export the file out. Let's go back to the sculpting room, right click and choosing Autotopo. This time I still will using the Autotopo MV painting. And for this one, the setting is pretty much like the things we did in the way 2. So let's just click OK. Alright, so about the UV setting, I think we don't have to change that. Click OK. And for the size of the map, I don't think we need such a huge map. Let's just choose in 2K will be quite enough. Click OK. Alright, so now we have the UV map. As far as you can see, it show up on your painting room. Also, you can take a look right here under the UV room. This is your UV map. Now we can export your model. As again, this function only works for the professional versions. So, well, for the trial version, yes, you can keep using 3D as you want, but you cannot export the file. Anyway, let's just choose in export. Okay, let's take a look about the final result. I think it's right here. So here is the model that we have, and here is the map. Let's take a look. The diffuse map right here. That's the final one. And roughness map. Okay, anyway, that's the final result. So we can use in the first way or second one. Well, it's up to you. But for me, I think the first way will be more intuitive. If you want to keep all the details and also you want to still draw on your model, then you can use in the first way. But if you have already make up your mind and also you think it is fine, but you can do the retypology first, lose some detail, then using the texture pen to fix that, well, it's also okay. So that's the two ways that you can use for doing the retypology and also the texture painting. So for the following part, I'm going to show you how to make a nice and realistic texture painting. Okay, so let's just directly use the first way to do the texture paint. Let's turn the model to surface mode and go to painting rooms. First things you guys have to know is that inside 3D Code, no matter you are working on modeling or working on texture paint, it's always be managed by layers. So very similar to Photoshop, okay? And second thing, in texture paint, there are three important parameters that we can use. The first one is about the dips. That's about the little patterns, the faking 3D patterns on your model. So for example, if I draw, you can see that that's a faking patterns. Okay, it's like a faking patterns. And so although that we cannot use in the modeling way to do the real 3D pattern on your model anymore, but we still can use in dips to create the details. And for the second one, it's about the color. So you can see that that's about the color painting. The final one is about the glossiness. That's about the reflection, the roughness of your model. So hold on your control key and you can wipe them out. And here, there are many different types of brush. Right now, I think it doesn't matter. Let's just simply using the brush and feel it will be quite enough. Alright, and for the layer part, you can take a look. We can control the dips, roughness, and also color opacity independently. So that we can, by this way, we can create many different types of material. And for the stroke, pretty much the same, just like when we are working on the texture paint. Alright, let's get started. So first thing is let's apply a base color for your model. I like to use in smart material. So let's use the here smart material, and there are many different type of PBM material that we can use. I want to use this one. Let's click, and it will back in the light and also back in the ambient occlusion for your model first. So it will take some time. Let's turn on everything, turn on color, dips, and also glossiness, and start to draw. Alright, so it looks pretty good. If you feel a little bit, well, annoying to draw these things manually, also you can use in fill. And choosing fill the layer, it will apply the material to the entire layer for you. Alright, anyway, I will using the manual painting to control that in a more detailed way. So once you finish this one, we have the base color now. Next thing is we can start to mix the textures. So probably let's create another new one. So let's call this one dirt. I want to create some dirt material on your model, on my model. So let's go to find the dirt, and we can choose in the dust 2 or the dust 1. For this time, I will use in a dust 1. Again, it will burn back the material for you. So let's start to do that. So you can see that it will automatically create this kind of dirty patterns on your models. I think it's pretty nice, so I like that a lot. You don't have to apply this one everywhere, probably just on this kind of, okay, this one is good, so I want to have that. And also here, basically everywhere. And if your model is symmetry, still you can turn on the symmetry and enable the symmetry. But right now my model is not a symmetry one, so that's a problem. But we can go to the top view and probably reset the symmetries. And the symmetry I want to have is X. So choosing local, so probably this one can work. Remember, right now we're working on locals. Okay, so you can see that, but right now that one looks pretty good. Okay, okay, also here. Alright, so now we have. Next things, I'd like to pen the teeth into different colors. So now let's create a layer named color. And we can turn off the rest part. And for the teeth, I think we can use in deep gray color to do that. So let's just quickly draw that. And we can turn off the smart material now and start to pen on your model. And change the opacity to 100%. Okay, not good. All right, probably let's change another one. Okay, so it turned into white, a little bit whiter. Let's create another one, another base color, and also we can, by using this arrow to move the layer. Let's turn off the base color first. I think, okay, you can see that actually the color works, but the problem of that is the matter is too strong. Okay, the matter is too strong. So probably let's reduce the opacity of this one. Okay, something like this, better than before. Okay, so now we have the teeth. And since this is a cyberpunk sculpture, so I think we can also apply some slightly red color on the border. So for the opacity, let's turn that one into 30. And right now, remember, I turned off all the matterness and also the dips. I don't need that right now. I prefer you guys to put the color, the dips, and also the roughness on different layers so that you can mix them in the end. Alright, so now that just like when we are working on the model kit, now we can start to emphasize the detail by drawing on this kind of crease patterns. Okay, let's turn on everything and take a look. And if you are not so sure about how the result looks like, we can go to the render view. Okay, so in the render view right now, you can see that it's totally different from the original model now. The original preview shader, it looks pretty flattened. But right now, under the texture painting, that's a PBM material. So for sure, it will look more realistic and also more probably details. Okay, pretty good. So I will keep moving forward, but the process is pretty just like this. First thing is create a different layer. Let's just call this. This is the metal layer, and here this is the base color. We can move this one down, and if you want, you can merge them together. Probably no. Alright. So let's keep moving forward. So I would like to create another new layer. And for this time, we can try to apply the copper oat. Alright, so this is the metal tool. And we can somehow by change the layer property to increase the final effect. Not so obviously. Let's go back to painting. And I'd like to use in color, probably some dark color. Let's turn that one into 100 so that you can be more obviously. Okay, so now we have. Alright, and then let's go to the textures. The color, sorry. I wanted, sorry, not here. Let's turn off the opacity, the dips, and also the roughness. Let's turn the opacity to probably 50. Let's redraw some color on the border. Sorry, maybe 80. It's very similar to It's very similar to making model kit. It's just like we are going to strengthen the detail of the crease. So we will use in the block pen or block ink to redraw the border again so that we can get a more nice and detailed textures. No, more nice and detailed geometries. Okay, but sometime probably you will feel this one is too sharp, so that we can try to using another different tool like airbrush to blur this area. Sorry, let's turn off that. Let's make this part be smooth. And let's go to the render view, take a look. Okay, much better than before. Okay, so now we have. And don't forget that we can create some 3D pattern. So for example, like the things here, now we can turn off the opacity and the closeness, and we can change the different type of the brush and start to draw the 3D patterns using the brush. For sure, this one cannot be like the real 3D model, and usually I won't draw too many of that because it will cause some problem when we are working on the texture baking. So just carefully using that, okay? Probably I would suggest you using that to strengthen the border area, like maybe here, this part. And this is just UV map, so it cannot be like the real 3D model. But still, we can use that to make something nice. And if you think the UV map is a little bit too exaggerated, then let's just change the opacity, it will be fine. I will change the depth opacity to 70. So you can see that you can change that by changing the layer. Very easy to control. Alright, I will stop right here. For the rest part, it's just about to keep applying the detail. So that I will leave that for yourself to finish. And I would say the texture painting actually is very similar to the girls makeup, right? Just do that layer by layer, applying the detail. The first layer probably will be about the overall color, and the second layer will be about this kind of crease and patterns on your model. The third layer will be about the shadowing, the dirty map, that kind of things. And the final layer, then I prefer you guys to put the 3D patterns. So that will be the overall hierarchy of the models. And right now we are working on 3D code, so you don't have to do the backend process. You don't have to do the backend process like we did. The things I showed to you is about if you want to make using your model on the probably on Blender or something, you can follow this way. But for the midterm, you don't have to do that. Okay, let me increase the detail right here. That will be the last part. Alright, let's see that on the render mode. Okay, so that's about the texture painting. Alright, so please try to do that by yourself for your midterms. And the final part will be about the render. The render is very simple. You can just go to here and choose your setting. And here is about the render size, and you can choose in custom size by yourself or just choosing the entire screen. And right here, there's a different setting for you. For your case, choosing the first one will be quite enough. And here is about the raise per frame. And you will take if you're choosing too many frame raise, it will take a lot of time to do the rendering. So I would suggest you, when you are working on animation, just choosing one will be quite enough. And finally, the render frame sequence animation, if you check this one, your result will become animation. You will become animations. Okay, you will become animations. So for the rest of the part, that's about the setting of the rendering. For now, you can ignore that part. And you don't have to check this one. If you check this one, it will take a lot of time to do. It will make your final result become the separate image. So let's click OK. And before that, let me choose in save. Alright. And here is about another setting for rendering, like the rendering angle, the light height. You can change the light height right here. So probably we can change this one to 75. And here rotating angle doesn't matter. The exposure right now is 100%. So if you wanna your image can be darker, then reduce the number here. And here is intensity. That's about the extra light that I get. You can change the extra light color right here. Maybe I will change that to blue. So you can see it become a blue color. Alright, and you can add the line right here. The rendering inside 3D code actually is not that good at all. But anyway, let's just try it. Alright, so once you finish, let's start to do the render. It will ask you to save locations, and you can see the format is MP4. Let's call this one test. So it will start to do the render. It's a turntable animation, so the rendering will base on the center of your model. Right now, the center of my model probably is located in the whole body model. So the location looks a little bit weird. But anyway, that's the read. Once you finish, you will go back to 3D code. Alright, again, don't forget to save the file and take a look about the final result. Where I put my animation, probably in the download format. Okay, so here it is. This is the final animation. Alright, so that's the requirement for our midterm. So please try to use in the time you have and finish the texture pen, at least probably the head, the body part. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you for watching. See you next time.